All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. How are you guys doing today for this Gameweek 4 stream? A couple people in chat already. Hope you guys are doing well. What about HAALAND? I mean, look, we know that he's had a, I think, personal issue. I'd say with the passing of I think it's friend / family member, obviously, very close, but you know, it probably is the case that he'll play, but I'm just thinking we might be able to get news. They do play today. We do have some leakers in the FPL community, so sort of waiting on for that potentially today. A couple other pieces of news. Any news on Cole Palmer? I don't think there's any news on it. I think Cole Palmer has been training this whole time, so I wouldn't be concerned at all about Cole Palmer. He was obviously withdrawn from English international duty, but I don't think that he's injured whatsoever. I think he's very clearly fit and ready to play. So I wouldn't be worried whatsoever in that sort of situation. Let's see, other sort of questions in chat. Nice to see you around, Jason. Thank you, Eddie, for subscribing. You're getting rid of Bruno for Jota, Cannon for Barco, or you're getting rid of, oh, you're getting rid of both Bruno, Jota, Cannon, Barco. That makes sense. Is this, I mean, are you doing this by virtue of a wild card, getting rid of 4 players, or how's it going on? For this game week, Mazraoui or Porro, I'd probably actually play Mazraoui. It's pretty close, I'd say. One of the concerns with Mazraoui, I guess, is do you think Luke Shaw can just start outright? I think it's pretty unlikely, so think about that maybe. Obviously, the minutes are always going to be with Porro. Any clarity on HAALAND? No, not from me. I mean, I'm not going to make an FPL move on HAALAND until he's fine, right? If it seems like, for the most part, that someone like Erling, we don't have any news on him, I can't justify really making the move. So, Porro or Face to start? I'd definitely play Porro in this situation. Pleasure to be here. Nice to see you around. Will Lucia start? I can't guarantee that as well. Yeah, I can have a look at Discord very briefly. Yeah. I quite like the Nico Jackson draft that you have. I think it's totally fine. Once again, my slight concern, I actually really do like Verbruggen plus Flecken. This might actually give you a 4.5 defender, but I assume you might not want it. But I just think that your team is pretty light, especially if Rico Lewis doesn't start. So that's the only thing I'm thinking. Oh, right. And first super chat, Jordan. Hi, Fran. Bench 1, Pau Torres, Smith Rowe, Munoz, or Muniz. I would bench... I'd probably bench... I think if we want to bench Pau Torres or Smith Rowe. I do think it's between the first 2 options. I think I would... In most cases, I would always play Muniz, that is the striker from Fulham, over Smith Rowe. And then Munoz... I would play this week as an effective right wing back, right? So those 2 for me are absolutely locked. I think you make that decision based on Pau Torres and Smith Rowe. I don't tend to really see someone like Smith Rowe playing an insane amount of minutes. I think he'll still be an early sub. Of course, you know, he's been building on his fitness, but I don't necessarily see him, as I said, as someone who's going to come off like nice and late. So I'd probably actually play Pau Torres in that circumstance, because I think Pau Torres is going to play the full game. I don't really have concerns over that, but it's a close call. I feel like if you feel like Smith Rowe is going to play any more than 75 minutes of football, then play Smith Rowe. But at the sort of tier where, once again, ultimately it's a little bit close, I would probably back Pau Torres, because he's actually someone who's much less owned within the community. So actually, him actually being, let's say, an equivalent pick with Smith Rowe this week in terms of my points expectations, I'd rather go with Pau Torres as a differential. But thank you for the super chat. Porro Robinson, some people asking in chat, I'd probably go Porro in that instance. I just think that most both these two teams are going to lose a clean sheet. And so it makes more sense to go with the better attacker, in my opinion. Eddie says, should I keep the 4 players? Is that because of some of the Liverpool leaks suggesting that Darwin could start? Can you show us your Wildcard 4 draft? Yeah, we could jump into that in a moment. Are you asking me about my Wildcard 4 draft if I was to, let's say, if we got news that HAALAND wasn't starting, that I'd wildcard and how I would do that? If that's your question, then yeah, we can go for that. William says he's playing a very crowded draft, and unfortunately he's got Armstrong. The best available attackers are Awani, Archer, Gakpo, Gabriel Jesus, Hurst, and Unal. I'd probably maybe consider going Gakpo, but I don't really love it. Best Saka replacement except for Salah. I mean, Palmer, technically. Can I have Welbeck instead of João Pedro? I think you can. Like, if you're actually going for wildcard 6, you know you're going wildcard 6. That means you can go for a very, very short-term pick. Then I think that's a good situation where you can definitely consider actually just going for Welbeck instead, because ultimately I still think he's going to play 2 games straight in the sort of center forward position. It's not a bad pick. Roshan says, hello, Fran, mate. 5 defenders on wildcard. You've got Robbo and Trent. I think that's fine, once again. I actually really liked Martinez up until we saw Verbruggen start in Gameweek 3. So if you guys remember when I was suggesting a Gameweek 3 wildcard, I was very often suggesting Emi Martinez, but now I think I'd probably go Fleck and Verbruggen, but it's very close. I know some people don't like rotating keepers, and that's fine. And yeah, Robbo and Trent, I think actually I would consider it within my own wildcard 4 as well. Does Haaland's unfortunate situation make Salah a more favorable captain this week? I think it makes Salah a more favorable move, right? So let's say you've got 2 free transfers. You were previously considering not to go Salah. I would definitely make the Salah move this week because it gives you the best insurance vice captain possible. Whereas actually when it comes to Haaland, I think either he's going to play football or he's not. I'm not going to sort of guess what his mental state is and how good he is playing football when, you know, he's lost someone close to him. But I hope that makes sense as a point, right? I'd much rather have a better vice. That's all. Because it kind of reminds me of the situation where, do you remember when Haaland was missing last season and we all had Salah vice captain versus Crystal Palace away? And suddenly, of course, I mean, that wasn't exactly a great game for Salah anyways, but he still performed extremely well. That's sort of the guarantee and the benefit sometimes of having a really good vice. Hey, Discomfort. Hey, Kieran. Hope you're doing well. Will Trippier start? I mean, over the course of the season, I'm sure he will, given that it seems like a lot of the deals that he had, you know, offloading him have gone cold. But right now, for this week, I wouldn't be so sure. Would you choose Quansah or constant defense? I'd definitely play constant defense this week. I mean, I just don't really see Quansah, the Liverpool U21 English player, that is starting. Bench Rodgers, Havertz, or Muniz? I'd probably actually bench Muniz. I tend to think that Rodgers is going to be playing hopefully 90 minutes again, and Muniz as the earlier substitute. I'd probably side with Rodgers. But I know it. Look, it is more tempting anyways to go for Muniz simply because he actually has better underlying stats, right? But keep in mind, of course, the minutes are quite impactful there. So when I'm contextualizing, let's say, the great game, which is Everton at home for someone like Rodgers, considering that Branthwaite is still out, I kind of feel like I'd still like to go with Rodgers. Milos says, hi, Fran. How are you? Saka / Son to Salah for... I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea taking a hit. I personally haven't, and I won't do that. I don't think in this situation, unless, let's say, I really want to go Watkins. We have a leak somehow that he starts, and I want to go out of both Saka and Haaland. That could be one option for me, but yeah, unlikely that I make such a move. I know some people have outs like, you know, Isak to João Pedro, maybe Bruno to another player like Minte, maybe Sobo even, or Porro to a 4.x sort of player, but I still don't love the move for a -4. Because you can always save the transfer and then make those 2 moves without a hit for Game Week 5, where you probably want the Salah captain. But the HAALAND decision might actually sort of impact whether you take that hit or not. Konsa, Robinson, Porro to start with Trent and Dunk, Mark says. Oh, you're just choosing one player, right? I'd go Konsa quite easily. Yeah, in that situation, Mark. Thank you for sending the super chat along. Rico out. I'm not sure about that. Is there someone who's already said that Rico's out? If HAALAND doesn't play, who to vice captain? Bruno, Eze, Isak. I have a vice captain right now. It's Eze, right? So that's kind of which way I'm leaning. Hey, Music Kiwi, Sobro, Rogers, and a wild card. I'd probably go. I mean, it depends, right? If you are kind of looking for a placeholder or just an 8th attacker, I think that's Rogers. If you're actually generally considering someone to play week on week, I actually would probably go and consider Sobro. Is Palmer going to play? I think he would be. Why would Palmer not play? So Palmer's actually been in training the whole time, I believe. We've seen multiple photos of Palmer in training this international break. I can't see that really changing. I'm just going to quickly have a small snoop around for potential leaks. Highly doubt that we'll have something this early, but I'm just going to have a look. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I can't quite see really anything, so I'm not too concerned. I do think I have a decision to make in terms of Lewis and Konsa, but I'll probably side with Lewis once again this game week. So that's that. What do you guys think? Actually, maybe I should poll that as a subject. And also, I'm so sorry. I think I missed two sort of memberships. So Mike, welcome to Captain. Thank you for joining as a member of the channel. Really appreciate that. Feel free to drop any messages in chat. Obviously, member messages get read in priority. You can join the Discord as well, so let me know. Anish as well, member for 10 months. Thank you so much for being a president. You so much want to go with Eze as a captain. Look, I think if you have Salah, I would definitely go Salah as a captain, because right now, if you think about it, Eze is still 6.9, right? So quite a lot of people actually did sell him quite a while back. And ultimately, he's a very, very strong pick, where I think just owning Eze is the differential. I still think Salah's the superior asset, despite the difference in quality of fixtures. It's just about the asset itself. So I think there's always going to be that gulf there when Salah at least has a home game, which is going for him. Maybe you've got confidence in Nottingham Forest defense, though, so that is also something to come into play there, Anish. But I'd most likely go Salah. Leluna says, "Hey Fran, my hero is still playing wildcard in Game Week 6. That's the rough plan, yes. I feel like there are, once again, issues that are cropping up very soon around the corner, but it could be a wildcard 6 or a wildcard 7, so I'm not really too concerned. Vijay, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. You've been really, really kind in the comments in a lot of the videos, so appreciate that, and thank you. I'll have a look out for any messages that you might be sending as well during the stream. But yeah, I think Luna, generally I'd say wildcard 6, but my decision will be made on Game Week 5 when I make certain moves, right? Let's say on Game Week 5, if I don't make any transfers today, we don't get any leaks, we think that HAALAND might still play, then of course I'm going to move into a situation where I'm only going to move off of HAALAND if I'm wildcarding on 6 or wildcarding on 7, just because 5 and 6 aren't exactly great games for HAALAND, right? Newcastle away is a 6th game. 5 we know is obviously Arsenal. As far as Henry's question, Welbeck needs for the next two to three. Look, I actually think it depends once again. Yeah, are you going wildcard 6 or 7? I probably would go Welbeck, if I'm being honest. I just think that his starts are pretty nailed for the next 2 weeks. Maybe Game Week 7's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I must imagine that Evan Ferguson's also rebuilding his fitness quite quickly. So that's going to be a big, like, if you think about Welbeck's sort of minutes, right, it could drop quite severely over the next 2 weeks after this one. But I think he's still got an amazing fixture now that's not really comparable, and you can arguably say he's playing for a better offense. So I'd still go Welbeck in this situation, especially if it's a short-term pick. All right, quickly going back to chat. Protagonist says, should I go Pow instead of Konsa? Is Konsa fine? I probably would just go Pow instead of Konsa. Konsa does seem fine though. So I guess if you want to go Pow, it's just simply about having a slightly different pick and how that would work out for you. And that's it. Play Lewis or Porro? I'd play Lewis for sure. Lewis or Dunk? I'd play Dunk actually in that situation. I mean, Dunk basically has his best fixture in a long time, right? It's Ipswich at home. Do you know if Hall from Newcastle is out from the starting 11? No, I mean, he's been benched 2 weeks in a row, so I wonder if he'll be benched again. Watkins in a wild card, getting HAALAND Gameweek 7. I mean, I feel like Watkins, he's been rebuilding fitness slowly, but I'm not sure if I'd be wildcarding into him. I might not just even have that much money within those expensive forward spots, if that makes sense. Is Bailey starting? Nope, I think he's out actually. So FPL Villain has already shown his predictions. Bailey's not a part of them. I think he's been... I don't know if Emery actually confirmed that he's out. I think he is. -4 Isak to Pedro and Son to Salah. I don't love the move, if I'm being completely honest, because I just think that Son is slightly better than Saka as well for Gameweek 5. So actually, in terms of how short-term the move is, I think it is a bit short-term. I wouldn't do it for a hit. Wood to Welbeck, I think makes sense. If you're once again, if you're going for something that isn't Wood to João Pedro, I would say the big changes are definitely whether or not you're going to wildcard soon, right? I would go Wood to João Pedro in most circumstances, but if you're wildcarding very quickly, Wood to Welbeck, sorry, is a very good move. Any changes to my wildcard 4 draft? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think what I would do with my draft now, if I was wildcarding on 4, is I'd still go the same keepers and most of the same defenders. Maybe if you're... One thing I'll have to say is, if you're not going for players like Havertz and Mbeumo early, let's say you bin them all, then you probably actually need to consider, I would say, not even going for Lewis as a punt, potentially. He might be someone that I could drop, I would say. And maybe I would just try and go Robertson instead. Or Guardiola, actually. Because his minutes, once again, seem extremely nailed. I know Rico does play in better positions, but I'm actually concerned that he might not start. I just think that it's worth the punt in my circumstance. I mean, maybe we still go with Mbeumo here. But the issue is that if I wildcard into this, am I concerned that HAALAND won't play? And that gives me a little bit of pause wanting to go for a draft structure like this. So I think, what would I do to change it? Maybe I don't go for Porro. Maybe I go Robertson here. This is way too strong of a team, actually. I probably want Porro as someone who can rotate a bit in the future. Maybe I don't need too many elite defenders. What if I go Robertson, drop Konsa into a 4.0? Unfortunately, Mosquera's out, so I don't think we actually have too many 4.0s in the game. I mean, I guess there's always this as a potential option. If I drop HAALAND, like, let's say if we actually think HAALAND's out, can I play this team? Tyler Rogers, Eze, Palmer, Isak, João Pedro. It's not great. And then I play... Could be a Konsa week anyways, I suppose. Or I could still go Dunk. But maybe I could go Minte as well in this situation. Am I using the funds though? I guess you could always go Watkins. There's always Solanke too, to be fair. I guess if we want to spend more money in the midfield, there's always Solanke, but this seems like a decent draft, I'd say. And then you have kind of optionality in terms of going for Minte too. So what would I be playing this week? I mean, you bench Mbeumo for 1 week, but you play him versus Tottenham. I think that's fine. That's acceptable. Watkins, João Pedro, Salah, Minte, Eze, Palmer. And then you play Robertson, Trent, Guardiola, Konsa this week with Verbruggen as a keeper. I feel like that could work. Just because I'm a little bit less confident in Havertz right now. But I'm not sure if I have that level of confidence in Watkins actually fulfilling the minutes we want. So if I go Havertz, and once again go for that sort of Havertz and Mbeumo rotation, is that better? I mean, potentially it is. Could we also upgrade Minte? Well, we can't go Sobo now. So if I go Rodgers here, is there a placeholder for Mbeumo potentially, actually? I mean, there's Bowen, and I know a lot of people would never like to see Bruno in their team, but there's always Bruno as well. Yeah, that's one of the issues. Like, if HAALAND's out, I don't know how I would really draft the wild card. Probably would actually consider going for a bit of an interim sort of pick over Mbeumo, maybe. I mean, if I put Bruno in here, so I got Bruno for Southampton. After that, most of the games are okay. Unfortunately, this sort of devalues Havertz a bit, but you play Havertz anyways. I think that's fine. And you play a 3-5-2. You bench Konsa, and that's okay. Next week, though, you've got Havertz versus Man City. And I don't think my team actually rotates that well. Then again, you could just play the 2 Liverpool plus Porro plus Konsa once again. Yeah, you could play 4-5-1 next week, I suppose. It's not lovely, though, I would say. So I think I'd have to have a lot of confidence, first of all, that Haaland's out, which means that I would go a Haaland-less draft structure. And then I'd have to go into something like this, is probably what my thoughts are. There's always the option of going for Solanke, right? Because if, let's say, we're confident about Konsa this week, we could just go the 4-5-1 this week, and then next week it becomes a 3-5-2, particularly when I would say Guardiola doesn't have a great fixture. But Konsa is always going to be there as a good bench piece, so there's quite a few options to go around it. Anyways, back to chat, because I've definitely missed out a lot of stuff. So there was a super chat from OP Talent. Thank you for joining the stream. Play 2, Porro, Robinson, and Mbeumo, Smith Rowe. I'd probably play Porro in that circumstance. So I guess the question becomes Smith Rowe, Robinson, or Mbeumo. I'd probably play Smith Rowe, I'd say. I just think without having to play too many minutes of football, he's probably a very good pick for this week anyways. Robinson, I do expect him to lose a clean sheet. As I said, I do prefer Porro naturally. So you probably have to play one defender anyways. So yeah, I'd probably go Porro, Smith Rowe. Anton Laughran, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain. Hope you're doing well. So you've asked, could I explain why I would have Minte prioritized over Mitoma? Money not an issue. Part of it simply is, well, I do think money is an issue, but I think if money is not an issue, one thing I'll mention about Minte is that he's been taking set pieces, so that's an additional value add within the game that's actually very beneficial. Mods, Nigel, would you like to be a mod on the channel? Maybe you could help out. Someone sort out the spammers. Yeah, sorry about that. I think maybe the spammers did go loose. But yeah, going back to the point, Anton, yeah, I think so. There's some value there with Minte. We know Minte's open play stats from even the sort of Belgian league was totally great. So not the Belgian league, but of course the Dutch league with Feyenoord. And I think even if you sort of apply some tax to those numbers, they are absolutely bonkers. And I don't think Mitoma, for example, is someone who has like insane underlying stats. Neither does he have a lot of set pieces in his locker. So from that perspective, I think Minte is actually very valuable. But the issue is that in a few game weeks' time, do I think that Minte's minutes could be a bit more reduced than Mitoma? Certainly. So that's why it also comes into play whether you actually prefer an extremely short-term pick. Like I would say Minte. I wouldn't say Minte is just purely short-term, but then it's also about the nature of Brighton's games. Like I wouldn't be super happy about playing someone like Mitoma over these runs of games, right? So let's just have a look at their fixtures. So like Chelsea away, Spurs at home, Newcastle away. Those are 3 pretty poor games. And then obviously in the distance, you got Liverpool and Man City again. So actually Brighton's games do get really tough, which is why I kind of like Minte anyways, if you're just going to play someone for the purposes of those 2 good fixtures. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Havertz or Jackson wildcard 4. Yeah, I mean, you can go for Jackson. I do think that he's quite prone to an early substitution, but I might be wrong completely, because it might be the case that Chelsea actually play, let's say, Jackson a lot less in the European Conference League, and his minutes become extremely safe in the Premier League, which they have looked so far. But at the same time, I think if you've spent so much money on Nkunku and João Felix, are you still not going to play them in most instances in the league, particularly, let's say, Jackson isn't playing well within a game? Like last season, we saw that Jackson was basically a 90-minute player, and we've seen 90 minutes from him so far. But yeah, I'm not sure if I absolutely love it. You're a community mod, so happy to do your bit for me, Nigel. Yeah, look, happy. I've seen you mod around, so just giving you standard mod, and you can do what you want to do, Nigel. I usually give people just a 5-minute timeout, just tell them not to spam, but that's pretty much it. Let's see. So, ready to help here since 4 of those subs. Not sure what that means. Ahmad playing. I think it's probable that he plays. I'm not really sure though. I mean, I obviously don't have United leaks. We've gotten incorrect United leaks in the past as well, on Twitter. So I feel like I don't have the confidence to tell you anything. What about Semenyo? That saves up some money. Semenyo is a good pick too, but then once again, the actual immediate fixtures for Semenyo aren't great. So I feel like if you're going to go for someone like Semenyo, you might as well hold someone like Mbeumo in your team, because it's like Chelsea and Liverpool, not exactly great games, and then actually he's got 3 poor games, very similar to sort of some of the Brighton assets. Whereas like if you go for one of the Brighton assets, it's kind of like you're going for a short-term pick. In the future, maybe you actually have a transfer out. So I guess conveniently, you could always do Brighton to Semenyo, right? Because the next 2 games for Brighton are great, and then actually the next 2 weeks after that are poor for Brighton, whereas it's actually really good for Semenyo. So there could be a bit of yo-yoing around, I suppose, if you're a Semenyo owner. Hey, Fran, can you rank for this game week Madueke, Rogers, Smith Rowe? I'd probably go Rogers, Madueke, Smith Rowe in that order. Hello, Henry. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, Henry's actually always been a moderator on Discord, but actually now that Henry's on live chat, he's another mod as well. 2 transfers, what to do with the midfield? What do you mean, like with a team structure like mine? I'm not sure what your team is. Would you start Nedo Djokovic this week? I'd probably take the risk on Nedo Djokovic. Yeah, I probably would. Please suggest one transfer. Venom says you've got Bailey, Savio, Diaz, and Nkunku. Whoa. So okay, so I'd say two picks there that could very well not start between Bailey and Nkunku. I'd probably say Sobo. Sobo is a great transfer in your team. What's my plan if Haaland doesn't start? Honestly, I think I'll wildcard. Thoughts on Dean? I still think his minutes are a little bit risky, so I do think that that's a bit concerning. That's my thoughts. If you, once again, like I've got someone like Lewis in my team, so I clearly already have 1 punt in the team. But if you actually don't really have punts in your team, you really want to go Dean for whatever reason. I mean, it's nice because he's on set pieces and he might, get subbed off early, which is actually a bit of a pro, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I don't love him that much as a pick, until I really think Matson's just not going to challenge for any left back minutes. Yes, of course, Matson could play right back, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Monks, hope you're doing well once again. You got the King returns, Monks. Got 2 free transfers. Got Bruno, Saka, and Isak. Salah in our role. What about Robertson out for Dunk as a luxury transfer? Yeah, look, Robinson for Dunk is a good move. What I would say is, I guess if you were to move out of Bruno, Isak, aren't there some good Brighton picks that would actually make the make weight really good? And another thing too is that I think going for Salah this week, if you've got 2 free transfers, is a bit of a pro, because ultimately if there's, let's say we reach the end of the deadline, I'm still uncertain that 100% Haaland starts. There's some doubt there, and so therefore there's a pretty high chance that I guess that my vice captain points will come in. So maybe actually just going for Salah gives you the best vice captain too. And you might feel a little bit uncomfortable in terms of getting the immediate value out of this game week, but you insulate yourself from the circumstance where Haaland is out and you feel bad about not having a great captain. I mean, Eze is still a great captain, in my opinion, if you have someone like Eze in your team, but you get the point. So I'd probably go out of, if you're planning for a short wildcard, I'd probably still go out of Bruno, because I think Isak's next 2 games are still amazing on that sort of wildcard 6 trajectory. The big thing is, though, a lot of people have been going Isak to João Pedro just because of how good João Pedro is as a pick. But I do think if you can go something like Bruno to Sobo, Saka to Salah, I think that's very powerful as a move. I wouldn't really mind doing that as my preference. Let's see. As Willie says, hi Fran, on wildcard, would you rather go Henderson, Palmer, Minte, and Wisa, or Raya, Diaz, McNeil, and Isak? I'd probably go Henderson, Palmer, Minte, Wisa. I really like the Minte, Wisa rotation that you have there, so I would actually probably go for that. You said Porro over Robinson. Yeah, but the point is, I think Porro is just a better attacker than Robinson is. Like, I would say Robinson's been pretty fortunate to get 2 assists so far this season. Why always go for Conson, not for Dean? As I said, I don't think I have the confidence that Dean will always be someone who's going to be playing more than 60 minutes a game. That's basically my concern. Or at least that was my concern when I picked Conson in Gameweek 1. It's not like Conson was my transfer in, if that makes sense. 617 watching right now. Quality. Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate the update there. Welbeck or João Pedro, wildcard 6. I'd probably actually... I know a lot of people have been suggesting João Pedro for the penalties, for the minutes, but actually I would go Welbeck if I was wildcard 6. If I have the chance to choose. Is HAALAND starting? I've got no information. So basically, HAALAND unfortunately had a friend or a close family member pass away, and there's obviously an uncertainty of whether he can play, because Pep has already mentioned that it's kind of HAALAND's decision as to whether he wants to play or not, which is why we're hoping, we'll get some news. Who is Sobo? Sobo is Szoboszlai, basically, from Liverpool. If you have Lewis and Dunk, who would you start? I'd probably start Dunk. What do you think of Munoz to Konate? I actually would probably just keep Munoz personally. I think it's a bit of a luxury move. I feel like Munoz is actually on a really good fixture himself with Leicester at home, so yeah. Basically a second dad. I appreciate the additional insight, Philip, and hope you're doing well. Protagonist says, as of now, is HAALAND more likely to start? I would say he's still likely to start because I think he's been in training. Obviously, he might not be in the best mental state. He might change his decision, but my intuition is that I think HAALAND starts. I don't know. Maybe Philip, you could be a little bit better on this situation. What do you think your sort of thoughts are? I think we also saw apparently that HAALAND was in training once again yesterday. So that's two days of training. And I think obviously the death of the almost family member happened a few days ago. So clearly he might want to play. I'm not going to speak on his behalf once again, but I think there's no real need to sort of get worried about it for now. You think HAALAND starts and scores 2? Very specific. I like it. Why not? Your intuition is HAALAND starts. Anton says he would have liked me to play. Okay, is that what he said, or is that just the general sentiment you think? And yeah, good context, I guess, is that HAALAND did play when his grandma passed this way as well. But yeah, hello Fran, would you trade Mbeumo for Eze? I probably actually would consider doing it. Yeah. Morning, mate. I'm on my wild card and torn between benching Porro versus Arsenal or Mbeumo versus Man City. I would just bench Porro. In general situations, if let's say an attacker is a bad game and a defender is a bad game, I'd most likely play the attacker, because with the defender, unfortunately, you fall into the circumstance of actually having a negative sort of consequence being put on you, which is actually conceding more than 2 goals, right? Whereas with Mbeumo, like, I think the base, basically minimum, is going to be 2 points, which is not too bad. Start ESR or Smith Rowe. I'd probably play. Sorry, what did I just do? Start ESR or Solanke. I'd probably play. Smith Rowe in that circumstance. Morning, Fran. Hope you're doing well, Tom. Philip says he thinks he'll start 2. His grandma passed away last season, but actually, I think this guy. That's what I've definitely gotten away from it. I mean, let's be honest. Like, sometimes you're just closer to some people. I agree that it's much more emotional for him, but if it seems like he's been training as well, I guess the intuition is that he'll play. Yeah, I'm probably not going to judge mental state and that impact on performance, Nigel. I sort of appreciate the insight on what you said about what happened after his nan died, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'd still base it on the quality of the game, because you never really know everyone's mental state anyways. Jota or Diaz, I'd try not to use a lot of spamming emojis in the chat. I would probably go Jota personally, but it did seem like there was some leakers suggesting Darwin starts. I think that's pretty unfounded though, so I would go Jota. Love the channel, Fraser. What team do you support? I actually support Real Madrid, so half Spanish, families from Madrid. Not actually a Premier League fan in terms of any specific team. Beat you to that message, Nigel. I see. Says Henry, who's also a Real Madrid fan, obviously, with the Lucas Vázquez DP, which I absolutely love. Haaland starting. I don't know if he starts. We're kind of waiting for a potential leak today, definitely. I would think that he starts. Is sort of my intuition there. Am I a Ronaldo fan? Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of what Ronaldo did as a Real Madrid player. But like in real life, if that's what you're saying, not necessarily. Captaincy on Salah or Haaland, I would still, if I had both, I would still captain Haaland most likely and then vice captain Salah. But if you really want to vice captain Salah because, if you really wanted to captain Salah, I think it's totally fine. I think they're so close anyways. You might as well go with what your gut intuition is, right? So let's say if you actually generally think Haaland might perform a little bit worse because you might be like projecting over the mental state of him, then fine, go for Salah because it's totally fine. This is a week where actually they're very close in competing as captaincy options. So make the move that goes with your gut, I suppose. Is Bailey out? I think so, unfortunately, DB. Messi, Ronaldo, exclude. Yeah, of course it's Messi. It's not even close for me. And I do think Ronaldo's actually probably the second best player ever. But it's still not close. Loving the content. Is FPL my primary job? Not at all. Not at all. Please don't ask Fran who the GOAT is. His answer hurts me too much. Yeah, I've unfortunately, the question has been asked and it has been answered. Is Haaland starting? Any news? Yeah, I think he trained yesterday, which seems like the new piece of news that we got today. So I think it's pretty likely that he plays. You think it's very likely all three Liverpool forwards have limited minutes given Milan on Tuesday if the game is wrapped up? Look, that's a very fair point, Philip. One thing I think is that I did read that Chiesa didn't train too much. He only trained 3-4 times. So, obviously we know that Salah is extremely fit. So maybe Salah is still good to go as usual. And we know Salah likes to play on a lot. No more spamming the chat. Sorry, Mo. You've just been canned. If you ask a question nice and slowly, then you'll probably get the answer eventually instead of spamming in chat. Same with the excessive use of emojis and question marks. Robinson or Konsa, I'd probably go Konsa, but once again, timeouts lurking around the corner. Don't ask multiple times, that's correct. The mods are on track. Going for Welbeck, Rana Joy says, instead of Pedro's a differential, even though Welbeck's minutes are not secured, but better scoring potential maybe. I think it actually, once again, more scoring potential in open play, but João Pedro is a penalty minute taker. Sorry. He's a penalty taker. And with the exception of maybe this week where let's say João Pedro could have slightly worse minutes, maybe due to the international jet lag piece. Yeah, I think generally speaking, Welbeck is always prone to being a 75-80 minute substitute, right? So there's that too. Chelsea trained 4 times for the first team, rest with U21. Okay, appreciate that information. ESR to Minte, is that okay? I think that's fine if it's a luxury move. Once again, if you're considering a 1 free transfer move this week and you don't have Salah, one of the questions I would definitely say is you might be struggling with, let's say, a move towards Salah next week if you don't already have him. So that's something to think about. Ruben Pagesters, I hope I didn't butcher that name completely. Liverpool's new lead of fitness performance has a veto here. But do we know that? Do we know that that's actually the case though? Because I feel like when you look at game state, right, someone like Sobo, before Harvey Elliott was actually like injured, he's played 390s in a row. So I feel like even with good game states, I haven't seen that many Liverpool subs for anyone not named Salah. Like I feel like Salah's still in a bit of an exclusive category, is he not? But yeah, of course, contacts being the switch around with the UCL. Kieran, I probably can't play Champions League. Sorry, what was it? Champions League. Valorant today, just because a friend's around and I am unfortunately flying tomorrow. So early in the morning, which means probably also need to get my work done. Pass off any sort of work that I haven't done to my colleagues with my full-time job. So can't do it. Tutorials by Hugo. You're considering Bruno to Minte instead of Isak to João Pedro. I think that's totally fine. Generally, totally fine. Once again, I think Minte, I would be less You know, I'd be less enthused about Minte and Welbeck as a long-term pick, but generally, if you're telling me that you're actually just going to go for Minte or Welbeck as a two game week punt, and you're going to wildcard 6 anyways, totally fine. I think that's a good move. I do prefer, like, if I was to compare Isak and Bruno for the next 2 weeks, I'd definitely say I'd go Isak, and I don't think Minte is that far apart from João Pedro, particularly if you guys factor in a bit of international break, sort of rest issues with João Pedro. Will Maatsen ever start a Premier League game? I think he will eventually, but probably hard to say that it's very, very soon because Dean has been playing really well. Bogard was terrible last game. Yeah, which is why a lot of people still think Nedo Djokovic will play. Boo, Kieran says, yeah, look, we'll probably have to be maybe around Friday, maybe. Full-time job, accountant. What is the thought process of starting Dunk over Konsa? Everton's attack looks pretty senile. Sorry, did I say senile? You said sterile. I think ultimately, I think Brighton is probably still a better defense than Aston Villa's. And then on top of that, I would say Dunk is actually quite an offensive set-piece threat. All those sorts of things are true. And I wouldn't say Ipswich have a very virile offense. Let's just say that. Havertz or Isak? I'd probably go Isak if I had the choice. If you're wildcarding, though, I can kind of understand going for Havertz, but I definitely have been a little bit switched off of going for Havertz because of the sort of left center mid piece for this game week. Would you sell Gordon or Muniz? Am I still high on Lewis starting? Not necessarily, no. Accountant is my job, doesn't surprise me given I don't love spreadsheets as much as you think. I probably love FPL spreadsheets, but probably not my work spreadsheets that much. No, I'm kidding. Please don't ask multiple times for some hefty timeouts coming. Yeah, look at Nigel. He's on the case. Captain Haaland or Salah? I'd probably still go Haaland personally. Once again, just backing sort of the odds. But once again, it's very close. My friend 11ify, I believe, has it actually in favor of Salah as a better captaincy on his FPL model. So it's close. Is Haaland playing? I'd have to assume he does, but we don't have confirmation. And we don't have leaks so far as to that. Smith Rowe, Muniz to start. I'd definitely play Muniz over Smith Rowe in most circumstances, I'd say, because both of them are pegged for pretty early substitutions, probably actually still Smith Rowe earlier. And ultimately, I'd prefer the sort of higher underlying stats for a much more consistent basis player in terms of Muniz. 4 defenders or Rodgers. I'd probably go Rodgers in most cases. Do I use any FPL models? Absolutely, I do. I mean, yeah. I think if you listen to the FPL Script podcast, I do talk about sort of my use of models there. More specifically, also use the hub model as well as a very often sense check for my transfer plans as well. Yeah. Which is more stressful? Closing period, FPL deadline? Definitely closing period. FPL deadline is not stressful at all. I feel like I plan a lot of my moves in advance in FPL. So, you know, when we get to it, it's like, I just have to click one button. So I already kind of know what I'm going to do if Haaland is out today, if Lewis is out today, if Haaland and Lewis is out today, those kind of things. Is Odegaard definitely out? I think Arteta sort of made it seem like he's going to do some tests, but I feel like he's definitely out. Unfortunately, of course, Arteta, not the greatest beacon of true and factful information. Havertz or Solanke on wildcard game week 4. I'd probably go Solanke actually at this rate. Am I rolling a transfer? I am highly considering it, and I think I'm very likely to do so. So yeah, that's sort of my situation. Let me see what my team is looking like. All right, let's scroll down so you can see the bench. There we go. So that's the bus team. Is Garnacho playing? Look, I have to be honest with United. I am a little bit lost as to what they do because we've seen a little bit of rotation with the wingers, and honestly, with Rashford playing so poorly as he has, I feel like eventually we're going to see a Rashford benching, but is this the week? I'm not sure. I'd probably would have sold Garnacho, unfortunately, after last week's. I think was he benched last week? Or did he start? No, Ahmad came off the bench last week, didn't he? Yeah. So I can understand the conundrum, actually, if you're a Garnacho owner. Yeah, you might just want to play Garnacho. Do you feel uncomfortable without Salah? Not really, no. I'd feel uncomfortable without Salah if you told me that Haaland is definitely out today, though. So, just trying to check for some Twitter leaks on the mobile, but haven't seen anything so far. As a United fan, Garnacho and Ahmed should start this week. Yeah, I mean, look, I think most United fans even thought that would be the case even as soon as game week 2/3. But we're 3 Rashford starts in a row, some pretty poor performances and no production so far, so we'll see what happens. Bernardo to Eze for a hit. I don't love the move, but I guess if you're planning a little bit of a longer term, like if you're not wildcarding too soon, I can kind of understand the hit because it should average out. But then, yeah, if you're only going to give it like 3 game weeks, I'm not sure if I love the hit, especially since Bernard will play. Do you think Real Madrid will win tonight? I hope so. I hope so. Hi, Fran. Please, can you tell me through intuition what would you make sense for wildcard Saka, Konate, or Palmer and Konsa? I'd probably go Palmer and Konsa / Dunk. Only reason being that, I mean, Konate could be a future transfer out, and that's a problem. Saka doesn't just have too good. I mean, he's just got 2 bad fixtures in a row, so I'd rather start with Palmer anyways. And Palmer can always be a future transfer to Saka, right? Anoni says, hey, Fran, if I have Haaland, Palmer, Saka, Eze, and Salah, would you transfer Saka to Diaz / Jota? No, I wouldn't. I would just keep Saka still. Mostly because I think if you can make 2 free transfers, you can make better moves. And I'm not really sure if the minutes for Diaz and Jota are going to be stellar. Particularly Diaz, right? With the international break piece. I mean, think about it. He's played 2 games for Colombia. He's obviously had a decent bit of rest because the game wasn't too early. But then he's also got Champions League around the corner. So, yeah. Do accountants still use spreadsheets? They certainly do. It's also a case where a lot of the clients still use spreadsheets. Luke Humphrey says, if you had 2 transfers, would you roll still? If I had 2 transfers, I would definitely go Saka to Salah, I think. And I'd probably go Bruno to Sobo, is what I would do in my team situation. But I guess if you have Kwanzaa and you're blocked, I'd probably go Saka to Salah and Bruno to Minte, something like that. My guess is Haaland will play due to it being at home and will try score and dedicate his goal. Yeah, I'm not going to guess around these things. I think, look, he either plays or he doesn't. And if he plays, he's going to be a good pick. So if he plays, then he's going to be my captain. If he doesn't play, then I've got as a vice captain if we don't get any leaks. If we get leaks, then I'm wildcarding. Hi, Fran. Minte or Semenyo on wildcard? I'd probably consider, is Minte your 8th attacker almost? Or are you also going for some other sort of budget depth pieces? Generally, I guess Semenyo might be the better long-term pick, but then Minte feels like the pick that you'd want to start with for now. Hey, Fran, what's Bruno still doing my team? He's playing football versus Southampton away, so that's what he's doing. Semenyo or Smith Rowe or Rogers? I'd probably play Rogers and then Semenyo and then Smith Rowe in that order. There's nothing up with Palmer, guys. Palmer is trained perfectly fine. I've seen photos of Palmer in training. He seems totally fine. Just start 2 of Hall, Konsa, Porro, Robinson. I'd probably start Porro and Konsa if I'm honest. Nathan. The dot. Also, have I missed any super chats? I'm sorry if I have. No, I haven't. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Back in the chat. Hey, Fran, would you do Saka to Salah or Gabriel to Robertson? I'd probably do Saka to Salah. Will Savinho start? Is he a good differential? I think he's a good differential. Do I think he'll start? I think it's pretty likely that he starts just because he's been so good recently. But the minutes might be pretty limited, and then you've got Arsenal as well. So I don't love the transfer. Excuse me, sorry. Honestly, waking up early is not exactly the ideal start to a Saturday, but I would love to do it. Just because FPL is my passion. Nah, I mean, yeah, I think Savinho with Arsenal next isn't exactly a transfer that I would recommend. Is he a good pick, generally speaking? Like, if you were on a free hit, would I recommend it? Probably a bit more, yes. But not really as a sort of medium-term transfer. Keith says, hey, buddy from Australia, first year playing, 635k, love it. Team this week is Ryan, Lewis, Robinson, Konate, Palmer. Team looks good, mate. Good luck. Konsa to Lewis. I wouldn't do... Oh, you mean like playing Konsa over Lewis? Is that what you're saying? I would still probably play Lewis right now without a leak, but it's close. Any substitutions this week? I don't see substitutions happening for my team unless I find out there's a leak. Let's say Lewis doesn't play or Haaland doesn't play, and we'll have to make moves. Is Kwanzaa gonna play? I think Kwanzaa is not gonna play. I'd sell Kwanzaa unless you've got 2 free transfers to make better moves. Like, let's say if you can go Saka to Salah, that's fine. If anyone took a hit for Son or Saka to Salah, I think that's totally fine. Honestly, you're asking me if it's a good move. I wouldn't necessarily do it just because of the hit, but I think it's a borderline good move, and you're going to have 2 great captaincies, right? What's your plan of Rico and Erling's out? Just wildcard. Amada, Onana, or Rogers? Rogers for me. I just prefer the open play attacker. I mean, Onana's literally scored from 2 set pieces, so it's not like he's like some open play giga threat. Luis Diaz or Sobo regarding Diaz maybe not fit enough to play after Colombia twice. Yeah, I'd probably lean Sobo, just because I would say that the preferred triple up for Liverpool is Robertson, Trent, and Salah. But then if you don't really want to go for a double defense, then definitely I'd probably go Sobo because the minutes look really good with Harvey Elliott being injured. Would you cap Salah over Haaland if you had both? No, I would still go Haaland. What's the wildcard team looking like if Haaland's out? Basically, a non-Haaland team, a Salah plus Palmer structure, big at the back, something like that. Hi, Fran, I'm from Ireland. Would you do... nice to see you, Eddie. I would just roll the 1 free personally in that circumstance, but if you really want to make the move, you can go for it for -4. I just don't think I'll do it myself. The dot says, just realized that Bournemouth will have to start Mark Travers in goal. It's Kepa's on loan from Chelsea. Palmer captain all the way. I mean, is Travers that bad? Do you think so? I mean, I'm curious. Sacrifice Isak for Trent and João Pedro. I think that's fine. Slot loves Diaz for mix. Arnie Slot has created a personalized training cycle for Luis Diaz to get more about it. I mean, I get that as well, but it's like, I mean, don't you want all your players to do well? It's not like he dislikes Gakpo, right? So we're not criticizing Luis Diaz from how much Slot likes him point of view. We're just talking about Luis Diaz from a fitness point of view. If you look at last week, for example, he gets subbed off at 70 minutes. So the reality is he's still playing less minutes of football, even with like absolutely no midweek fixtures, right? Maybe that's just because they also knew that he was going towards an international break. It's early in New York. Good morning from New York. Oh my, catch up. Thank you. You start early today. Yeah, I'm starting to start early. I'm a changed man now. I'm going to start streaming at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and we will be there for the entire stream. 351. God, that's an absolute trek. You're pretty early as well. What I would do if I was living in a corner of the world where FPL wasn't necessarily suited to my mornings or my evenings is I'd probably just set an alarm, set 3 or 4 sort of ideas up in motion, find out if there's leaks or not, and then go straight to bed. But I also kind of get the idea of just turning up on a stream and just watching a stream because it is fun. And then you can kind of see the madness unfold, ask questions, that sort of thing too. And Keddy as a differential, I think it actually works out, right? Because it seems like the coach is basically suggesting that he'll start. But question is going to be, of course, Crystal Palace fixtures, right? So for me, Eze is a bit more of a set and forget type player, so I'm not really concerned about him. But then I guess, do you want to be playing Kedia through, Liverpool, Everton? Well, obviously Everton don't look great right now, but Nottingham Forest could be a tough fixture. So kind of up to you, I guess. If it's short term, I can kind of understand going for Nketiah. Yogesh, yeah, you can have a look at my wildcard draft. I mean, I was basically drafting earlier, and it's basically something like, you know what I should do, right? I should have an alternate tab for just my wildcard. So that's what I'm going to do. An alternate tab for my wildcard. So this is my team. We'll just leave it there. We'll draft the wildcard now so that we can jump onto it immediately. Can't wait to get rid of Winks. He's done nothing for me. Solanke probably, just because I'm not so confident about Havertz this week, so I don't think I'd still have him. Maybe I would try and leave the third forward spot open. Maybe I actually keep Rodgers. Let's see. What if we go Guardiola and we go... Okay, so I'll definitely play... Yeah, I think I might just do this. Let's play Robertson. So this week, what am I playing? Robertson. Yeah, I guess this could be like a prospective team. Or I guess I go Dunk, and then that allows me to bench Solanke. I think that works better. Yeah, I'd probably do a draft like this, I'd say. Captain Salah, Vice Captain Eze, João Pedro plays 4-5-1. So I'd go Robbo, Dunk, Trent, Guardiola, all playing Salah, Rodgers, Eze, Palmer, Bruno. That's probably my wildcard draft. This is only if Haaland's out. Only if Haaland's out. Nobody is answering this. Let me answer it then. Is Haaland playing or not? I think no one actually has a confirmation because unfortunately I'm not privy to City leaks, but I would say Haaland's. I would take the assumption that he's playing, but yeah, as I said, someone like Lazy FPL, someone like FPL Tony, someone like FPL MCFC could actually just give us the leak. What if Haaland is in? Well, I'm not wildcarding, am I? Should I take the gamble and keep Solanke in? I mean, if you're not going to wildcard next week, then yeah, because Solanke's going to play versus Brentford at home, which is really nice. Just make sure when you do that alternate tab, don't accidentally confirm that. Yes, good shout, Henry. Don't think I'll be confirming that anytime soon. Hopefully. Is it likely that Bailey will play? Apparently, I've seen some Villa predictions, and I think it's unlikely. And I haven't gotten the chance to listen back to Emery's press conference, but it seems like he's out. Hyper again. Start Havertz or Smith Rowe. I'd probably still start Havertz if I'm honest. Smith Rowe. Yeah, I'd still start Havertz. Start Gabriel or Burn or sell Burn. I'd probably sell Burn. Rodgers versus Everton or Mbeumo versus City. I think Burn to Dunk makes a lot of sense. You'll need to drop soon, mate. Multiple community responsibilities. Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate you supporting so far. By the way, Henry, you're an admin as well, so maybe it's time to get you on the payroll. Is Porro to Robbo, but take care, Nigel, and thank you for being around for the stream. Really appreciate it. Okay, thoughts on Vardy. I just think that his fitness is definitely an issue, so I'm probably not too keen with him. João Pedro's a risk for me. International duty on a different time zone. Lots of traveling. Came back late. Hasn't really trained. I feel Welbeck is a better pick this weekend. I think that's fine, but then I think the reason why I've mostly been recommending João Pedro or have João Pedro in my team is because I have João Pedro from Gameweek 1, and then on top of that, ultimately, I guess if you were ever to prolong the wild card, would I rather have João Pedro or Welbeck? I'd have João Pedro. So yeah, for this week, maybe Welbeck is just better, but I'd still say João Pedro is the one that I would go for in most circumstances. But as I said, if you're wildcard 6, you want to go Welbeck, totally fine. Conrad, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, Gabriel to Robertson for a hit. I wouldn't do it for a hit. Bailey or Minte? I'd play Minte. Thoughts on Lewis? My intuition is that it seems like a lower chance that he starts because there could be a Walker dress rehearsal versus Arsenal if you really believe that that's the thing. I think Verbruggen will get the nod over Steele. I mean, he already got the nod over Steele last week, and I think that the manager already confirmed that he's only going to be playing one keeper this season. Thoughts on Hall starting this week? I don't know. I mean, 2 benches in a row. I probably would have to assume he gets benched again. Palmer starting. I think Palmer has to start. He's been in training. Don't worry about it. Will João Pedro start? I would say 75% so. Seems pretty likely that he'll start. I think Fabian was pretty clear that João Pedro has a route to starting, and it's not like he's going to be benched, certainly, right? Rico Lewis or Pau Torres? I would probably play Rico Lewis. I mean, I'm in a similar circumstance where I'm playing Rico Lewis over Konsa. Bench Robinson or Semenyo? I'd bench Robinson. Triple captaincy for, are you saying Haaland or Salah? I guess with a small doubt on Haaland starting, I wouldn't triple captain now. Why are there so many price falls but barely rises? I feel like they've changed the price fall and price sort of rise algorithm, so I must imagine that that's that. I guess they've decided that they just want more price falls in the game. And maybe that's because, you know, like, we have some good players who've dropped in price. Maybe the idea behind the price falls is simply so that it's easier for you to move around certain picks. Nice one, Henry. My handle's the same as on here. Got a blue tick on your name on X. Start Muniz or Rodgers? I'd probably start Rodgers just for the minutes, Lars. It's very close, though. It's definitely a 50-50. But I'd like to back the player who plays more minutes just so, you know, let's say if I have an expectation for Rodgers playing 80 minutes, let's say I have an expectation for Muniz playing 75, they might be similar. But if Rodgers can play more, which I think we've seen time and time again, I'd probably go Rodgers. Is Haaland playing? We're not so certain about it, but I think it's. I would say I've got like an 80% chance certainty that he plays. I mean, he either plays or he doesn't, right? Which is obviously an issue. Saptesh says he's wildcarded. Do you think this is a good team for long term? Raya, Rico, Dunk, Trent, Salah, Trossard as a... I mean, I don't think Trossard is necessarily a good long-term pick. I think Rico's a bit risky considering that you also have a 4.1 defender, which I don't love. I don't like Smith Rowe as well in a wild card, if I'm honest. So yeah, I don't think that's the strongest of teams possible. Thoughts on Paquetá? I mean, he's actually quite a good pick, right? Because obviously we know he's a penalty taker as well. I didn't say Haaland is not playing. I mean, Haaland's literally in my team. So if Haaland wasn't playing, I wouldn't... and I'm sorry, no spamming the chat. But if Haaland wasn't playing, you wouldn't see Haaland in my team. I don't know whether Haaland's going to play or not. But effectively, unfortunately, he's had a close friend/family member pass away. And we've seen that Pep has mentioned that he might have compassionate leave. Porro Konsa, I'd probably play Konsa in that situation. Goalkeeper is Raya. That's fine. Raya is a strong and stable pick. Martinez in goal is very strong. I really do like Flecken and Verbruggen as well, at that same price point. For a -4, someone says Salah, João Pedro, Dunk, Robinson. You own, I think, no hit. Salah, Matoma, Dunk's perfectly fine. Reno X. Robinson or Porro first bench. I'd say Porro first bench. Will Watkins start? Uncertain. I feel like he could start, but it wasn't exactly promising, right? Basically, Emery's sort of confirming that he's definitely struggling with fitness, and it's a case of regaining that fitness. So maybe once again, another 60 minutes or maybe 30 minutes actually off the bench. So Haaland starts. Who said that? Do we have a leak already? Ooh. Okay, good. Well, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to open this wildcard tab and close it. And we're going to go back to life as usual. We're going to play Haaland in our team. And that's it. Life is good. Life is good again. I'm going to quickly retweet that. That is a good piece of news on this morning. Very, very nice. So, it's all good. Let's just change our stream title to Haaland Starts. Alrighty. The information is coming from Lazy FPL. I'm going to pin the comment. I think they've given us they have at one point in time, I think, given us incorrect information once, but I feel like Haaland is... I don't know. I feel like this is such a big stain on the rep that it's not worth it. I mean, you must be absolutely sure. I'm going to trust them. They've gotten leaks right a lot of times. So, yeah, Lazy FPL, good. Haaland for the win, Sutric says. Is Isak and João Pedro... Sorry, is Isak and Saka to João Pedro worth -4? I don't think it's necessarily worth a -4, personally. Last wildcard 4 draft with Haaland Salah. I'd say probably drop Bruno from the previous draft that I had. Maybe consider going Minte. Maybe drop Palmer as well. And then just go for someone like... So you have Haaland there. You drop Solanke. Maybe you go Stewart still. So I think it's kind of like Haaland, João Pedro, Stewart. And then maybe you can just have a beefy midfield. Similar defense, I would say, works. You don't probably have to go that deep into defense because you probably don't need Dunk this game week. So that's all I'd say. Would you start Smith Rowe or Semenyo? I'd start Smith Rowe just about. Actually, I'd probably start Semenyo personally. I just think he is just a better pick. Hello, Fran. Best midfielder for the next 2 game weeks, and at least Semenyo's at home, right? Best midfielder for the next 2 game weeks, Bowen, Eze, Diaz. I'd probably say Eze. Close call, though. Who is the best 4.5 goalkeeper if not rotating? I would still say Verbruggen. I guess in the short term, you have the 2 great fixtures. And then actually, I have quite a bit of confidence in Brighton being a pretty good team this season. At least that's what they look like. So probably him. Henderson and Flecken as 2 goalkeepers. That works as well. Am I crazy to not go for Haaland? You prefer Salah, better numbers. I'm not sure if there's better numbers for Salah. Defense points is definitely a thing. Plus Haaland way too expensive. We'd rather go Saka plus Palmer plus Salah plus Isak plus Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not sure that that's affordable, the 5 players that you've mentioned, but I think it's totally fine. So my wildcard free draft actually didn't have... The wildcard 3 draft was Saka, Palmer, Salah as well, the one that I recommended. So I feel like it's definitely fine to not go Haaland. Like, I've never told anyone that Haaland's essential. And I don't even believe that. How do I feel about Calvert-Lewin? I think that, once again, let's just watch his minutes for game week 4. See whether he plays really good minutes once again. If he's going to be a 70-minute substitution, I'm pretty cold on him. Lazy FPL did get one leak wrong last year. Yes, I believe they said that Grealish starts and then he actually didn't start. But that was the one time they got it wrong. And they've actually got it right maybe like a lot of times. Obviously, you can argue that it's a lot easier to get things right than wrong. But yeah. Save the transfer, bring in Robertson. I think Robertson for Robinson's a fantastic transfer. I would definitely do that. Unless you're really planning and you really need a route towards Salah as well for game week 5. But sorry, I think I was answering a question previously, and the point was more so on George. I'd definitely start Konsa over Robinson, sorry. Palmer flag removed now. Yeah, I mean, Palmer was never a doubt, by the way, guys. He was always in training. Beardy J says, hey Fran, I have Konsa, Porro, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, 2 defenders that don't play, 1.6 in the bank. Should I pick up a defender? Yeah, I think you can pick up Dunk this week and then actually play him. I think that would actually work out really well for you, Beardy. Who's the best? Sorry, well, oh yeah, I was just talking about Haaland, right? But yeah, I think Haaland actually does have better numbers than Salah, and I think that's not really disputable. I mean, you're not going to look at 3 game weeks to tell whether someone has better numbers. Why haven't I got Robertson? Because there's no leak about Lewis not starting. And also Consta's fit. But I'm going to have to put you in timeout, Julian, because I've answered the question. So, and let's not spam in the chat. Pick 2 of Robinson, Porro, Konsa. I'd go Konsa, Porro. Thoughts on Porro to Robbo with Game Week 6 wildcard? I mean, the thing is, though, Porro just has a really good fixture for Game Week 5, so I guess it works out if you have no moves planned for the rest of your team. That's fine if you really want to do that one free transfer Porro to Robbo. So it's really up to you, I would say. Is Luis Diaz starting? I really don't know. I can't confirm that. I think he should be, but I really can't confirm. Erling starting? Yep. Haaland says, or Lazy FPL has been mentioned, or has already mentioned that Haaland will start. So that's very, very big news. When is it wildcard time for me? Probably 6, probably 7. I'll make a decision next week, because I think next week I'll have 2 free transfers. So my ability to make certain moves is going to dictate the wildcard that I'm going for. And I think it makes more sense to look. We don't really want to be dead ending necessarily all the time with our wildcards this season, but then we also know that whatever moves we make will also lead us, towards a stronger position on a certain wildcard window. So that's something to think about as well. So next week, I'll probably decide what my wildcard timing is specifically. Onana, Rodgers for long-term, definitely Rodgers. I don't think it's close for me. How likely is João Pedro to start? I think I'd say 75%. FPL Instinctive, a very, very good sort of Brighton, I would say, not reporter necessarily, but just sort of FPL sort of avid as well, fan, and sort of, I would say, someone who's quite knowledgeable about Brighton has him starting. I just think also it's just a case where he's very crucial. It's not like he's, I guess, fatigued per se. So it's more of a case of course, if he was able to get the requisite rest over the last 2-3 days to be able to be set to play today. And I think it's possible still. So yeah, I think João Pedro does start. Solanke starts. I can't confirm that, but it seems pretty likely that he will start. Trent captaincy, I haven't thought about it. Talk about what your plan is and what transfers would you like to plan before wildcard 7. I mean, I kind of talked about it in the team selection video, if I'm being honest, and I don't think my plans haven't changed, because my plans would have only changed if Haaland was out today. But yeah, my general plans were maybe something like Winks to Salah and then Haaland to Havertz if I go wildcard 7. This way I get Havertz for game week 6, and I would get Salah still for 6. I would still keep Saka in my team as a captaincy for 6, and then I can move back into Haaland for game week 7. Is Spanish your first language? If so, your English is impeccable. I would say actually English is my first language, and then it's actually Cantonese, and then it's Spanish. I'm definitely fluent in Cantonese. My Spanish is amazing in terms of like listening and reading, but then yeah, my issue is definitely speaking in Spanish because I just haven't had the experience, and unfortunately I'll have to blame my dad here. So shout out my dad for not teaching me Spanish properly. But yeah, I'm much more comfortable listening. I can speak Spanish obviously, but yeah, just less comfortable, I suppose. Andrew Moore says, start Robinson or Veltman. Tough one, because obviously Kadioglu could play. I've actually seen that Veltman is leaked. No, sorry, not leaked, my bad. Is rumored to start by FPL Instinctive, the same sort of Brighton sort of in the know person that I've said. He's not in the know, as in he's not a leaker, but he's just someone who is pretty into Brighton, and his prediction I think very much had Veltman, so I would take the chance in the Ipswich at home fixture with Veltman, probably. Liam Delap, Ipswich, is he good enough? I mean, he seems good enough, but are we talking about just consistently as an FPL pick? I think he becomes more of a rotation pick, and at that point in time, most of the midfielders are better for rotation. So I don't think he's good enough from an FPL sense where you're playing him week in, week out. How old am I? I'm 26. Start Porro or Robinson. I'd start Porro. Once again, I think, Gustav, in this case, I see Fulham losing their clean sheet. I also see Tottenham losing their clean sheet, but who would I rather have? The attacker that's better, I would say. João Pedro, Welbeck for the next 2 game weeks. I think the safer play is still João Pedro, but yeah, I mean, if you really want to gamble in the short term, I think Welbeck is probably actually secretly the one. Just simply because I can't see Evan Ferguson starting next week. So I feel like Welbeck with 2 starts is actually really good. And of course, João Pedro might be prone to there's a small chance that he could get benched. There's also a small chance that João Pedro gets an early sub, right? Because of fitness. Muniz or Smith Rowe, I'd go Muniz, but please do not spam the chat. Am I going to go with Robinson and Lewis out? No, because fortunately Konsa's fine, remember? So Konsa, I'll just have Konsa. Bonsa's been so attack-minded. Am I solid on Dunk? Yeah, absolutely, I'm solid on Dunk. I mean, this is the best fixture possible for Dunk, right? Start Porro, my regret. I mean, I benched Porro last week and I didn't regret, so I think I'll be fine. Worth taking punt on Welbeck. Yeah, I think it's totally fine, Robert T. Like, or is it just Robert? My bad. Literally getting confused there by the caps. But yeah, I definitely would be fine with you just simply going for Welbeck if you're on wildcard 6, right? But if you're asking about wildcarding into Welbeck, well, okay, that's different. Then I would go João Pedro. I would go João Pedro on a wildcard for sure. When did I finish college? I don't know, like I mean, I went to uni when I was 17, so I guess I finished when I was 20. So pretty early, I would say. Who would you choose for captaincy between HAALAND, Salah, or Palmer? I think HAALAND, Salah in that order, then Palmer, of course. You took a -8 to get Pedro, Salah, Robertson. Yeah, I don't think that's... The move might not pay off itself immediately, but those are good picks, right? So I think it's hard to say that it'll go wrong in the medium term. Is it worth transferring Wood out for João Pedro? I would say so. Is Szoboszlai a good differential? I think definitely he is. What did I study in college? I studied law. Is it worth transferring Wood out for João Pedro? Yes. Salah or Eze for vice captain? Salah for sure. Porro or Saliba? I would play Saliba if I had another Arsenal asset in my team, because I think I'd be definitely betting towards a good sort of positive Arsenal result and outcome on the whole. But if you only have one player and you're, let's say, deciding between Porro and Saliba, I'd probably actually go Porro in that circumstance. Like, let's say you're backing double Spurs or double Arsenal anyways. Like, you might as well actually go with Arsenal players, I think is actually something that could work out really well. Xiong says, start Porro, Konsa, Robinson. I would start Konsa for sure. And then Porro, and then Robinson in that order. Robert says, currently on wildcard, and thank you for this first super chat, Xiong, as well. Pick Lewis or too late for him? I do think it's a little late for him, potentially. Well, one thing I'll say, though, is that I do feel like wildcards always have room for one punt. So if you do feel like you have one punt, the rest of your team is extremely solid, you're probably not booking in too many transfers, then of course Lewis is okay. But if you suddenly have a lot of players that are short term, so Lewis, I'm not sure where his minutes will be in the medium term, Welbeck, I'm not sure what his minutes will be in the medium term. Like, these are picks where I'd say if you go for too many of these players on your wild card, you're already shooting yourself in the foot a little bit too much, and I wouldn't do that. Any update on Haaland? He starts, Eddie, so I think we're all good there. By the way, 900 of you guys in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. If you guys could like and subscribe, I would absolutely love it. And do feel free to watch some of my videos throughout the week. We do a lot of content specifically with the use of data as well and analytics. So appreciate it. Do you think Bogard will start for Villa? I think a lot of people have been guessing that Nedeljkovic will actually be benched. So I'm going to take the assumption that, that Bogard will be benched because Bogard wasn't great last game, and that still, it's a good opportunity to actually start Nedeljkovic at home. So I quite like Nedeljkovic starting and his chances. And FPL Villain has once again sort of gone out on a limb and said that he starts, but it's much lower this week. Why not get Havertz for Isak and bench Haaland for Gameweek 6? I'm not sure what you mean. So you want to play Haaland versus Arsenal, is that what you're saying? But why would you get Havertz then for Isak? Because Isak actually has got a good fixture, and then I can't bench Haaland in Gameweek 6 because I'm probably wildcarding, right? If that's your point. I transferred to Nico Jackson Gameweek 4. Thoughts on the prospect of Jackson? I mean, look, he's always incredible in terms of amassing XG, right? Someone like very akin to Darwin, probably with slightly better finishing as we've seen so far in the Premier League, but that's small sample size. I think my concern is just going to be around his minutes this season, right? Because they've got so much depth. Is it the case that he can be an early substitution? I would say probably that's likely on some games of Premier League football. But yeah, I think Jackson's a very good pick. If you transferred him in, I'd be happy with him. Thoughts on Isak captain? I probably wouldn't consider it. I still prefer like Eze. I prefer Haaland. I prefer Salah for sure. What if Lewis is out? I'll just play Konsa. Will Nkunku start? I think it's unlikely. Saka or Palmer for wildcard? I'd go Palmer for the wildcard. And hopefully just transfer in Saka in 2 weeks' time. Punt on Dean instead of Konsa / Pau. I think that could work once again. And obviously he's on set pieces too, which is really nice. But I have mentioned to quite a few people, obviously, the reason why I've gone for Konsa is because at the start of the season, I thought that the minutes would be a bit murky in terms of the left-back position. So that could go very much that direction anyways. So yeah, as I said, if you follow the logic of, one punt at a time, I would say within the wild card, and you only have one, that's fine. Would you rather go Lewis and Porro or Guardiola and Guehi? I'd probably go... Ooh, good question. I'd probably go Guardiola and Guehi. You already have Pau. Yeah, I think I'd probably do that. What university did I go to? UCL from London. Play Smith Rowe Rogers. I'd play Rogers. On a wildcard, what do you think about Henderson / Turner? I'd probably want to beef up a little bit on the goalkeepers, if I'm honest. Double 4.0, I don't love either. Like, once again, you've created a team that's incredibly top heavy and really, really weak on defense, because there are going to be bad dunk fixtures. There are going to be bad PAL fixtures. Dunk fixtures will get worse sooner rather than later, right? So what are you going to do when Dunk plays Chelsea? What are you going to do when Dunk plays Spurs? What are you going to do when Dunk plays Newcastle? Which is why going Dunk is more of an option when you actually have a rotating cast of players. Having him permanently starting isn't exactly what I would do or plan for in a wild card. And another situation is, what happens if someone doesn't play in the defensive positions? You always need to play three defenders in FPL, right? So if, let's say, someone is, you don't get news, maybe a manager lies to you. If you have an auto sub and suddenly you need a player 4.0, I don't think that's a great situation to be in. So yeah, definitely cut down one of the players within your team. Probably cut down Saka, if I'm being honest. Drop him down to someone that you like in the midfield position that's a little bit cheaper, and create a bit more of a well-rounded team. Thoughts on Kamada? No thoughts. I don't think he's even going to start this today, no. Do they play today? Yes, they do. All right. I almost duped myself out of that. So yeah, those are my thoughts in terms of Kamada. Robert says Jackson nailed for next 4. I think Jackson is nailed for the next 4 game weeks. So if you're confident that if you like Jackson simply because of him starting, I think, yeah, Jackson is nailed. Nailed to start, not nailed to finish games of football though. Robinson or Porro? I'd play Porro just due to the attacking threat. Robinson or Porro, I'd still go Porro. I've answered the question as well, so unfortunately I'd put you in timeout. Rodgers or Muniz, I'd definitely go Muniz in that circumstance. Mike Mansour says, what do you think about transferring in Diaz for Saka for the next 2 game weeks? I don't love it, personally. I would have honestly only gone out of Saka if it was for Salah. What's your thoughts on Trent, Mazzari, and Lewis as my defenders? It's a bit flimsy because I do think that there's going to be circumstances in the future where maybe Shaw comes back into the team and maybe it's Shaw and Dallo again. But yeah. Thank you, Julian, for joining as a member of the channel. We really appreciate you for being around, and welcome to Manager. Start Mikolenko versus Villa away or Porro versus Arsenal at home. I'd start Porro for sure. Winks or Bednarek for first sub. I'd probably have Bednarek first sub. Start Gibbs White or FaZe. I'd probably start Gibbs White. Are you making any transfers or rolling? I'm planning to roll personally. Muniz or Smith Rowe. Generally speaking, I'd say I'd go Muniz in most circumstances, right? Much better sort of underlying production. So yeah, pretty confident about that. Super chat from J Pups on Wildcard. Very sorry if you've answered similar. You love Nketiah if he starts. Do you think he will? Welbeck and JP on short term. I mean, honestly, if I was wildcarding, I would go João Pedro. Because you're saying that you're on a wildcard, right? So I would go João Pedro. And I don't even see João Pedro as a short-term pick. I think he's both short-term and long-term. So I really like João Pedro for that reason. And Nketiah seems like he could start. So there's that too. So I guess you need to consider the Crystal Palace run of games, because it is slightly cleaner than Brighton's run of games, right? We sort of looked at Brighton's run of games and it's not great. So yeah, I think that's fair. Will you add Robertson? I probably won't, Julian, because I think my thoughts are I was only going to go Robertson if it was confirmed that Konsa was out and also that we got a leak that Lewis is not going to start. Right now, I think there's still a decent chance that Lewis starts. So I'll take that on. Yeah, so I'm not going for Robertson today. I'm also planning to go for 2 free transfers towards Salah next game week, basically, is the general gist. Konsa still on wildcard or Pau now instead? I think it's still fine to go Konsa, but of course, if you want to just go for Pau simply because of the differential aspect, right? If you have someone with less ownership, that could always work out really well in your favor in terms of betting against the field, while still sort of going for a bit of a homogenous result. So that could work out. Bohemian says, hello, Fran. I have to bench Minte, Isak, Rogers as you have João Pedro. I would bench Rogers. I'd play Minte, personally. I'd play Minte. Bench Rogers or Porro. I would bench Porro in that circumstance. Human97, thank you so much for being around as well. With the president icon in the chat. Is Haaland starting? Yes, he's starting as confirmed by Lazy FPL. Own both Haaland and Salah. Who would you captain and why? I still think, look, I'm not going to make a mental guess on how Haaland will play because of what's on his mind. So I'm just going to have to take the full trust that, you know, looking at these fixtures, I would have probably captained Haaland. Looking at the market odds, I would have probably captained Haaland. And it's very close to Salah. So if you feel like you have any doubts whatsoever on Haaland and his ability to play at his absolute best, just go Salah captaincy, I would say. But I don't really like to guess either direction, right, in terms of his mental state. So that's why I would still go Haaland personally. But it's very, very close. And those are the two picks by far. Start Wood or Porro. I'd probably actually start Wood still. I like to say that, okay, if you kind of have a somewhat poor defender and a somewhat poor attacker, at the end of the day, the poor attacker can always get 2 points. A poor defender could always get 1 point, which is what happened last week with Porro technically versus Newcastle, even though he actually looked amazing. So he wasn't poor per se, but yeah. Jackson versus Solanke in a wild card. Not sure if you answered already. I think if you can actually somehow rotate around Solanke's poor fixture this week, which is game week 4, like let's say I suggested on a wild card that you could go for the old Porro, Robertson, Dunk plus Trent. Like if you've got everyone in that back line that I described, which is basically Porro benched, you can always actually have Solanke benched. But if you want to play Jackson this week, I'd probably start Jackson. Start Robinson or Nedeljkovic. I'd probably start Nedeljkovic still. I'd still take the chance because I'm not that confident in Fulham's clean sheet ability this week. Dan Watson, just wondering what's the top 5 captaincies are. I'd say HAALAND, then Salah, very, very close. And then I think there's a big distance, and then it's Palmer. And honestly, maybe Isak, maybe Bruno as a 5th option. It's not great this week, really, when it comes to captaincy options. It could even be KDB, actually. You know, KDB's up there. Have you made a transfer? No, I haven't. I'm still rolling as of right now. Dean or Dunk? I'd say Dean is probably better short term. In terms of like if you want to capitalize on the upside of Aston Villa, but he could lose his minutes. So I personally just prefer Pau Torres for a bit more of a, or Dunk rather, for a medium to long term pick. I think I answered 2 questions there, but the answer is still the same. I'd probably go Dunk over Dean. With Pau Torres and Dean, I think it depends on whether you're wildcarding as well. Protagonist, thank you for being a member for 6 months as a president as well. If Guardiola over Lewis and drop Porro, would you punt with Dean over Pau? Would you go? And actually, I probably would consider doing it, right? Because, of course, in that situation, Guardiola gives you the coverage. Yeah, I think that could actually work out quite well. Hope you can come back from 6.7. You can definitely come back from 6.7 million. Honestly, some of the best managers of all time that I know, right, in terms of like ranking lists, Hall of Fame lists, they're literally at the same rank. So I would be quite relaxed. Going Muniz over Pedro has been so dead. Yeah, I kind of understand. Like, I've been lucky as well with the Pedro Hall versus Arsenal. Like, that's super lucky. And honestly, Muniz should have done something as well. Just in the same way that Bruno should have been doing something too. So I feel like, don't worry about it in FPL. Like, I feel like if you've got underlying stats, if you have minutes, if you have fixtures still, those players are still good. Do not worry. Things will swing very quickly. You think Saka and Fernandes are doing nothing this weekend? Yeah, well, then transfer out of them. Isak has City in Gameweek 6, so get Havertz in and get someone like Robertson for Dunk or Salah for Saka in Wildcard Gameweek 7. Yeah, that could work out really well. Start Havertz, may play in mid, or start Smith Rowe. I'd probably still start Havertz at the end of the day. I think Smith Rowe is just a bit mid, unfortunately. Especially with the minutes not really racking up. What uni did I go to? UCL, so University College London. Have you heard anything about Odegaard? I think that he's unlikely to play. Arteta is not really going to give us any confirmations. I think Odegaard's unlikely to play. That's my thoughts. Power Dean, I'd probably still go Pow as a safer pick. But yeah, if you want to go Dean short term, that's fine. Yeah, I could have a look at your final wildcard draft on Discord for sure. Like the goalkeepers. Defense looks good. Dean Guehi rotation, interesting. I guess you play. I don't know if I'd go Havertz this week, if I'm being honest. But then yeah, if you don't go Saka, then I guess you just need you don't want to book too many transfers. Rodgers as a Minte, so you can bench Mbumo, I suppose. Yeah, I'm gonna do that rotation. I think it looks good. I would definitely consider, you know, what kind of routes do you have to maybe potentially double Liverpool? I mean, triple Liverpool protagonist. Like, is there an availability for you to maybe go? Because I wonder, what if you could do something like maybe Palmer Mbumo, and then wouldn't that give you some optionality as well? Maybe. And then you could go Stewart potentially. Would that work out? Maybe it doesn't actually work out in terms of cash, right? 4.5, 3.6. No, it still seems like it could work out. But then I guess you've also got did you get the Mbumo price rise as part of it? So maybe that's something that you're holding on to as well. Yeah, I'm just thinking Palmer over Mbumo in the short term could work out really well. And then you can kind of ignore Havertz as well. That way, you can always downgrade from either Salah or Palmer to Saka and Mbumo, if that makes sense. You can make 2 midfield moves. That could work. Yeah, I think you have to drop Havertz in that circumstance. You could consider it, but I still think your draft is really strong. I just think maybe it's a little bit too robust now, especially with yeah. But I think like once again with Havertz this week, it's just not the best. Like I thought this would be a better week for Havertz, right? But before the Odegaard suspension, or not, I mean the Rice suspension and Odegaard injury. Fizzy Kiwi, thank you for the super chat. You've wildcarded into Salah with Erling and Palmer. Funds are spread thin. Do I go Rico and spare 0.4 million to go for Konate? Honestly, I think Rico's a little bit risky, especially if your funds are spread thin. Because I imagine if you've gone through those 3 picks, you might not have as much rotation and depth as the team would usually have. So I think that's quite concerning to go Rico Lewis. But you can always downgrade from someone else. I probably try and go Konate. Because at least with Konate, if he's risky, I think he definitely starts this fixture. Probably starts the next one as well. But you can always downgrade from someone like Konate, I guess, from that position and price point. But with Rico, you're kind of restricting yourself to the 4.5s. And maybe you don't want to be consistently starting at 4.5. Salah says, Gameweek4 Team, Henderson, Konsa, Robinson, Van Dijk, Jota as a Son, Rodgers, João Pedro, Haaland, Isak. Okay, you're benching Mbumo, benching Mikalenko, benching Mbumo. I would play... So you're playing Konsa, you're playing Van Dijk, you're playing Robinson. Yeah, okay, fine. You're kind of strict. I think that's the correct team, Salah. I think that's fine. Benching Mbumo is fine. Stefan, thank you so much for the super chat. Your first super chat as well. Appreciate it. I'll be looking out for any chat messages that you've dropped, Stefan, because I can't see a message quite from your super chat, so I'll have a look. Eden Twitch TV says, hey Fran, when is Salah coming to my team? Probably Game Week 5, my friend. If I had 2 free transfers this week, I probably would already be on Salah, but right now I'm not. So those are my thoughts. Stefan also said, my plans are to transfer out HAALAND and Saka in Game Week 5 for Salah and either Watkins or Solanke and then wildcard in 6. I think that's a very strong move. And honestly, that's something that I'm considering as well. Like if Watkins is perfectly fit, then I can easily just go Saka to Salah and do exactly what you said as well. HAALAND to Watkins for 1 game week, then wildcard on 6. Totally agree with you. Or Solanke as well, right? If we find out Solanke's totally fit. 4 a.m. in USA, any word on HAALAND? Lazy FPL have confirmed that he starts. Rob McIntosh, thank you for your super chat. Hey, Fran, keep up the good work. Would you start Mbumo or Colwell this week? I would still start Mbumo because for me, Colwell's away from home. I'm still expecting them to concede, if I'm honest. I haven't been that infused with Chelsea defense. I've always said, you know, at the end of the day, if you actually own, let's say, like a poor attacker or a poor defender for this week, and I wouldn't say Colwell's that poor, but generally speaking, of course, Mbumo's a very good pick, right? So, yeah, I would always go with the attacker in that circumstance. Hey, Fran, new subscriber, would you consider Jota over Fernandes? Yeah, why not? Foden starts? Really? Okay. Is that lazy FPL? Where are you guys getting these leaks? I'm trying to find leaks. Did I just get baited? So there's no Foden starts. What is going on? Am I being lied to? I've been on a search for leaks, and I've gotten none. No leaks. I didn't really think Foden would start personally, because I feel like it's so unlikely. He's been ill for 2 weeks, didn't have a preseason, has played 45 minutes of football this season. Yeah, I didn't think that was happening. Afnan says, Captain Salah or Haaland. I'd personally go Haaland. But if you really have some emotional sentiments about, let's say, Salah being the better captaincy, maybe because of Haaland's mental state, whatever, look, you can always go Salah as a captain, and that's totally fine. I'm trying to actually look for leaks now. Jota or Diaz. All right, I literally cannot find leaks, so that's it. Back to chat after that long sabbatical. Fizzy Kiwi, thank you for the super chat. Let me read up though. Sorry. So Jay Wavy, thank you for being a member for 8 months. 8 months as the president as well. Appreciate that. You've got a defensive Lewis, Konsa, Trent, Anderson, Porro. Do you think I should stick with the defensive Konsa, Lewis, and Trent this week? Yeah, I think that's a great defense, Jay Wavy. Totally love it. Salah says, won't have Salah game week 5. Son a good alternate captain. I think that's fine, Salah. That's fine. Fizzy Kiwi says, the Foden League guy just trying to spread chaos. He has indeed. Rent-free in my brain. Ahmed, thank you as well for the super chat. I'll have a look at any chat message as well. Neil, really appreciate you for joining as a captain of the channel as well. So welcome to member. Start Luis Diaz or Rodgers. I'd start Luis Diaz in most circumstances. You got the Foden leak from FPL EL Gunners. I'm not sure if he has one. Philip as well. You've DM'd me. I appreciate that, Philip. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, so back to chat, where we're no longer getting trolled by Foden leaks. I mean, he could still start, but still getting trolled. Robinson or Konsa this week? I'd go Konsa just for the better clean sheet odds. Madueke or Sobo? I'd go Sobo. Haaland starts for sure. At least that's what's been confirmed by 2 separate leakers. Larav is Ahmad confirmed. Is Rashford getting dropped? Is that what I'm hearing? Is Rashford getting dropped? I feel like, though, we've had leaks already for Man United, so do watch out for the leaks, right? Because remember, 2 or 3 game weeks ago, we had a leak that Ahmad was benched. But actually, it was Garnacho that was benched. So I wouldn't trust Man United leaks for now. Isak captaincy, I don't really love it, if I'm being honest. Palmer will start. Palmer will definitely start. I agree. What to do with Leon Bailey? I think he's a sell. Probably to Sobo, probably to Minte, these sorts of players. Hey, Fran, should I start Porro or Konsa? I would still start Konsa in this situation. Why stick with Saka with his fixtures being hard and Arsenal's injuries for this game week? Because I'm not going to take a hit to go for Salah. That's basically the gist of it. Haaland starts, yes. We've had that confirmed from Lazy FPL. Eze versus Haaland for captaincy. I would go Haaland still, then Eze as a vice. Lewis starting, not sure. We'll find out soon enough, hopefully. João Pedro news. I believe the news on João Pedro is that he could have a very good chance of starting, but I'll take my chances and I'll assume that he starts. Is Garnacho starting? I can't be sure of that. Talk me out of quadruple Spurs. Well, it's quadruple Spurs. What are you doing versus Arsenal? Hello, Fran. Is there any chance Solanke starts at the game tomorrow? I think there is a good chance because Ange basically confirmed that there is. Smith Rowe to Minte. I'm going to have to put you in timeout, but it's a good move, I would say. You don't need to make the move, though, if you've got better 2 free transfers for next week. Gabriel or Robinson, I'd probably play Gabriel just about. Mosquera still your favorite? I mean, he's injured, so no. I don't really like any 4.4 million defenders, if I'm being honest. Tropical vibes, Kwanzaa to dunk, then bench Porro. I think that's a very strong move. João Pedro captaincy? No, I'm not considering that whatsoever. Is Munoz a better pick than Robinson? I mean, there's a price point difference, right? So I'd say Munoz is definitely a better pick for this game week, but then as a transfer, like maybe not. Havertz to Jackson, that could make sense, yeah, as a move. Does Kwanzaa start? I don't think Kwanzaa is going to start. I think Konsa from Aston Villa is likely to start. I don't think Kwanzaa from Liverpool is likely to start, though. Let's go, Shaquille says. We got 18 minutes left, guys. Madueko, Rogers, the chat's absolutely buzzing. We're about to hit 1,000 people in the live chat. Really appreciate you guys for being around. Thank you so much. If you're new here, have a look at some of the YouTube videos going forwards, and also, of course, the subscribe button. Click on that, please. Henry says, hey, Fran, if you could check the Discord channel, 100% I can. Oh, I'm really sorry. Got deleted, but he got charged. Oh, Dr. Yeah, okay, or Dr. YA. Hi, Fran, hope you're doing well. This is my team with 1 transfer and 1 million in the bank. How would you line up and would you wildcard? So this is Dr. YA's team. Would you make a transfer? You're really interested in either getting Mbumo / Madueke or a better goalkeeper. I mean, I wouldn't go Mbumo versus Man City, so I think there's absolutely no reason to move on that. Your front line's amazing. Your midfield, you're just going to play Smith Rowe, Salah, Rogers, Eze. I think that's fine. You're going to play Lewis, Trent, and probably... I think, honestly, I would consider going for a defensive move for this game week. Trent and Lewis is fantastic. Henderson's fantastic as well. You already actually have Salah in your team, so you don't really need anything else. I would actually just generally consider just going for Lewis Dunk and then actually just benching both Gabriel and Pedro Porro if you want to. You might not want to, though, because I can understand why people want to have like a thinner defense. If you really want to play one player, I think I'd actually play Porro because you actually don't own any other Arsenal players. So I'd probably roll. Let's see. So protagonist, your draw, Stewart. Oh, yeah, that was the point, going Stewart. Because basically, if you go Palmer, then you can actually always just move to Mbumo in the future, and you kind of have a strong defense, anyways. I would say for rotation. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I just don't really like Havertz and Mbumo in the short term, basically for the next 2 game weeks, and rotating already when you have Rogers in the team. So that's pretty much my thoughts. All right, so back to live chat. It seems like there was like a bit of a YouTube error with super chats. Gordon versus Rogers, who to bench? I would probably bench Gordon. At the end of the day, it's still Newcastle away from home. I'd go Rogers. It's a nice home fixture. Branthwaite is still not going to be within the team for this week for Everton, so I'll take my chances with Rogers, I would say. I think I missed this. Start Robinson or Nedeljkovic. I would probably take the punt with Nedeljkovic, but it depends on whether you think he'll start, right? Excuse me. What is the optimal time to use a triple captain if you missed captaining Haaland against Ipswich? I think he plays Southampton quite soon. So I'd probably play it for Southampton at home in Game Week 9. That's probably when I would consider it. Start Smith Rowe or Strand Larson. I'd probably start Smith Rowe. Wood to DCL for -4. I don't think that's really worth a -4 because DCL versus Aston Villa away is not exactly a great fixture. You're basically trading a pretty poor fixture for a pretty bad one as well. So I would rather make that move with one free transfer next week. Or you go, like, if you really want to make a -4, I'd go into a Brighton player who actually at least has a good fixture. Shabam says, hey man, please reply. Haven't sold Kwanzaa yet. The rest of my team is exactly the same as yours. I have 2 free transfers this week. I would just go Saka to Salah plus maybe Bruno to Minte or Sobo, something like that. But I guess you can't go Sobo because you've got Kwanzaa, so I'd probably go Minte. Madueke Rodgers, I'd probably play Rodgers. Start Smith Rowe Rodgers, I'd play Rodgers. How can I get your feedback? I think I'm on Discord. So Justin, or Julian, actually, I think if you are on the Discord channel, try and at me on Discord or at Henry on Discord and just tell them that you're, a member of the channel and you'd like to get added into the members chat, basically. KDB or Gordon? I'd definitely play KDB if you had the chance, 100%. Waddle D says, hey Fran, love the content on Wildcard right now. Caught Diaz with both price rises. Keep him or move to Mbumo for good fixtures in 2 weeks. I'd probably, if you have the opportunity to go Diaz, I guess, I would still say, are you booking in too many transfers, which means that you might be blocked from going Mbumo in the future? Or if you go Mbumo now, does that prevent you from sort of creating too many issues in the short term, right? Because let's say if you wildcarded, you might not actually go Saka, but actually in 2 weeks' time, you might want Saka, which means that it's also pretty hard to actually guarantee that Mbumo is coming into your team. So that's something. Obviously, if you have someone like Palmer, it feels a little bit less worse because I guess Palmer is a very good competing option versus Saka, and you don't necessarily need Mbumo like as an essential pick in Game Week 6. So up to you as well in terms of how you're planning up your team. But generally speaking, I quite like the idea of holding Mbumo if you have a strong team now. But if it's too flimsy, right? Let's say you have too many weak picks even in the next 2 weeks because Mbumo has tough fixtures, then maybe it's not worth missing out. Clean sheet odds this week. I mean, I would say have a look at Rob T. Rob T FPL has shared a lot of the clean sheet odds. 11FI also has his own projections at 11fi.com. Fantasy Football Hub as well. They've got clean sheet projections too. So they're all good sources of information. Hey, Fran, what do you think? Start Neto Djokovic or as a risk or Mbumo versus Man City? I would probably play Mbumo, to be honest. Start Porro or Gabriel. As I was trying to say to the chat, if you already have another Arsenal player in your team, I kind of like backing Gabriel just for like an Arsenal friendly result. Now, if you actually have Porro, you don't have any other Arsenal players, don't have any other Spurs players, and it's equivalent in amount, then I think I'd actually rather go with Porro. Would you start Porro over Mbumo this week? No, I'd still play Mbumo personally. Captain Salah or HAALAND? I would still lean HAALAND and then go Salah vice captain, but that's up to you. Going back to the super chats, I think I've missed something. So Dr. Yazan, Abdulaziz, yep. Sorry, so did I miss a message, Doctor? I hope everything's well though. And Robert, thank you as well for joining as a member of the channel. Really appreciate that. Avinash, also you become a member for 4 months. What do you think of Saka to Salah and Isak to João Pedro? I've been saying this many times, but if it's for 2 free transfers, I think it's a very strong move. If it's for a hit, I probably wouldn't do it if I'm being quite honest. Larab says leaks that Jota may be benched. Is that true? Is that true? I'm so lost. I'm trying to find the Jota leak that you're talking about. Does anybody have a source on this Jota leak? I'm too trusting of the chat for leaks. No, but I mean, the thing is, we have genuine leakers, right? We have genuine leakers in the FPL community. And like, for example, I think we have someone called FPL Insights, Anfield Insights, and I'd rather just get the information right. All right, back to the point. Kim, actually, you were in the Euros. Really appreciate you being around. Sorry about the sort of tournament for Belgium and stuff, but nice to see that you're a captain. Hope you're enjoying FPL so far. So the thing is, if someone's going to send me a super chat as well, and it's maybe around leaks, I'd like to actually check whether the leaks are actually true, right? Because there's no point like not even investigating a little bit into it. But I saw predictions that Jota wasn't going to start, but I wouldn't say that that's necessarily from a trusted source. So I personally think that Jota starts. I wouldn't take a -4, honestly, because it's not a confirmed guaranteed leak. If it was a confirmed guaranteed leak, maybe it's worth a -4, but I don't think so. Gabriel, Guardiola to Robertson. I'd go Gabriel to Robertson. Guardiola's a great pick for this week. So I would just play Guardiola. It's a very good week to have Guardiola. Is HAALAND in the squad? Yeah, HAALAND actually is basically confirmed to start. Wildcarded bringing in HAALAND, Pedro instead of Havertz, bringing Welbeck. 4.2 million in the bank. I mean, 4.2 million in the bank isn't great, personally. I mean, why not? You're just saving a free transfer in the future, I guess, in that situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't think holding 4.2 million in the bank is great, because it probably just means that you could have created a much more well-rounded team beforehand. So yeah, I wouldn't sell Jota because I haven't seen any legitimate Jota leaks, so I wouldn't worry about that. But yeah, also going back to the point, Arcanos, I wouldn't wildcard with 4.2 in the bank just to get Welbeck in, by the way. Bobby, hope you're doing well. Beardy J says, with Odegaard and Rice out for Arsenal, do you think Porro deserves a second thought? Not really. I don't think it's that significant. I mean, you still have Saliba, you still have Raya, Gabriel, White playing, and it's going to be a decent team. Like, I think, if anything, I would say the suspension of Odegaard and Rice probably more impactful net on offense than net on defense. Bruno out, Kim says, for a -4 to Eze. I don't love it, if I'm honest. I know maybe Eze is close to a price rise. I'm not actually sure about Eze's price, like whether he's close to a rise. I can have a quick check of that, to be honest. Why not? So Fantasy Football Hub actually has a price change algorithm, so let's just have a look at that. Eze doesn't seem like he's close to rising. Bruno seems like he could fall, but it's actually saying tomorrow. So I feel like I wouldn't do it because of a -0.1. Personally, I'd be fine in that situation. Take the L, I guess, with me, because I own Bruno A's. J-Pup says 1 million in the bank on a wild card. Transfer Robinson/Dean to Pedro Porro. I do like holding Pedro Porro on the bench, particularly if you actually have someone like Lewis Dunk that you can play quite comfortably this game week. Or João Pedro Welbeck to Nketiah. I would keep João Pedro on a wild card 100%. I just think that he's still actually one of the best long-term picks in the game. And if you're wildcarding, you're planning for the long term. So Bryn's question's been answered. J-Pup's question's been answered as well. I do like Nketiah as a punt, right? But then once again, you're wildcarding, so you do really want a long-term pick as opposed to a punt. Ashton as well. Thank you for your super chat. Roll or -4, and thank you J-Pups too, and Bryn. But roll or -4 for Saka to Palmer and Porro to Dunk. So that's Ashton's question. I think that I would just roll, because Saka to Palmer doesn't feel like that much upside. I feel like if you were to roll, you would have 2 free transfers next week to potentially move out of Saka without a hit, and I think that would be good value. Yes, of course, Dunk is nice for this week. Yes, of course, Palmer is better than Saka for this week and potentially next week as well. But you might actually be able to go to some other picks. Like, I don't know, if you can go Salah next week, I'd much rather that, I would say. Start Joao Pedro or Smith Rowe. I'd start Joao Pedro for sure. Madueke or Saka, I'd start Saka. Are you confident with Bruno? I mean, am I confident that someone who's blanked 3 game weeks in a row and isn't going to do it again? Not really, not really. But I'd still do it. Start one of Lewis, Concert, Dunk. By the way, it seems like there might be a leak, and it might be that Jota's starting, I believe. Yeah, so Anfield Insights actually says... Seems like Jota starts then. Start Luis Diaz or Rodgers because of Diaz's late return. I'd probably... I mean, yeah, fine. Go Rodgers then because of the late return aspect. I think that could be quite significant. Bruno scored a goal for Portugal. He also assisted a goal too. Start one of Lewis, Consa, Dunk. I would start... Why are you only starting one of these players? How strong is your defense, John Wick? I would love to start Lewis and Dunk, I think. But Dunk first, for sure. Sorry for the confusion. Overall, lots of noise. No, it's fine. And once again, no need to super chat to say that. But Jota seems to start. So good for you. And don't take that -4, please. What's your plan on how to get Salah into my team for next game week? So I think my plans are either I can go... Let's just talk through the plans, right? So one thing that I was actually considering for next game week was if I go out of Winks, I could actually do Salah, and then I could go out of Haaland to Havertz for next game week. I know it doesn't sound great, but then actually what I would be playing next week would be... I think I'd just play Saka and Havertz for City, bench Lewis, bet on Arsenal to do something, very unlikely, but then I would get Salah captain, and then I would actually wildcard on 7, because then I'd have Salah once again on game week 6 versus Wolves, and then I'd have Salah on game week 7 versus Leicester, and then I'd also have Havertz once again versus Leicester, and then I would have Trent, which is still strong. Konsa is a good game. Dunk is a good game too. Porro definitely is going to play, so I'd be playing Porro, Trent plus one of these two. I'd play Henderson again. Isak is totally fine for game week 6, so that's fine too. Game week 5. God, I'm absolutely waffling right now. Game week 5. Joao Pedro has a good fixture in game week 5. So that would be kind of the idea. I imagine I'd play Konsa actually in that context. But this way, I would just pick Haaland back up on a wildcard 7, because I'd just roll on game week 6 potentially. And he would be versus Newcastle away. That's Haaland. So that's one way of going about it. The other way of going for Salah is just simply the traditional route, which I guess is going out of Saka as well, and then wildcarding on 6, by the way, and then going into like Watkins or going into Solanke for game week 5, and then just calling it a day, going for a wildcard in game week 6, and so proceeding with my life as usual. So those are the 2 options I would say are in my mind. And that's it. All right, back to chat. 2 minutes left in chat. Please make your moves. 1 minute actually. Lots of questions in chat. Lockie, Ngweki, and Dean starting 4 defenders. Protagonists, that sounds good. John Wick as well. Do you actually have Dunk in your team, by the way, protagonist? Just wanted to ask. I would personally, I would love Dunk, but I can understand going for Guehi. Is Diaz going to start? I don't think we had a confirmation from Anfield Insights, so I'm not sure about that. 2 minutes, make your transfers. Absolutely. Raya, Dunk, Robbo, Konsa, and Lewis is your defense. Raya, Dunk, Robbo, Konsa, Lewis. Fair enough. That's a strong defense. That's a strong defense. Locking in Guehi and Dean. Yep, makes sense. Any news on Diaz? I really don't know Oladipo, but I do think his minutes could be limited. So look, if the rumors are that he's benched, I think it could happen. But I wouldn't say take a -4 out of Diaz, unless we've got an... Do we have a leak on Diaz? I don't think we have a leak on Diaz, do we? I think Jota starts, it seems like, but then I'm not sure about... Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Sin Guardian, thank you so much for the super chat. Sorry, I was just checking if there's any last minute leaks, but we are at the deadline. Salah, Haaland captain. Simon, that was a bit late. I would have said Haaland personally, but I honestly do not think that there's a wrong answer to Salah plus Haaland this week for captaincy. So yeah, I really wouldn't be worried. I think you're in the best spot possible if you have Haaland and Salah. So well done. That's it for the deadline, guys. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat. 1,090 of you guys. That's absolutely awesome that we've hit 4 digits again. Thank you to all the members as well, and the moderators, and generally anyone who's participated in chat. Hopefully got through most of the questions in general. Do like and subscribe. It really does help support the content in the future. So have a lovely weekend, guys. Take care. I'm going to get some pancakes with some friends. Nothing better than that sometimes. And then I'm going to be enjoying a Bruno Fernandes haul, hopefully. Please get some points, Bruno. I'm begging. Absolutely begging. God bless you as well, Gary. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Lurendrin. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Amir. Thank you, Philip, once again. By the way, double thanks. John Wick, good luck with your great defense. Beardy J, good luck to you as well. Julianne as well. Diaz starts according to FOTMob and LFC agenda. Okay. Is that a new leaker? Let's hope green arrows for all. Absolutely, Ranjoy. Kim, leave a like. Absolutely. Thank you. Take care, guys. Thank you, EJ. Have a good day, Tom. Zahid, thank you as well. Pranav, thank you for joining the stream. Rashford and Ahmed starts. Let's find out if the United leakers are finally true. I feel like we don't have a good leaker on United. Thank you, Fadzai. Can you summon your team? You could try on Twitter. But yeah, I'm going to probably bounce now. Ethnicity, Spanish, and half Hong Konger. So mixed race. But that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. Enjoy your weekends. Enjoy the football. And yeah, hopefully we get some points from Bruno. Please, Bruno, I'm absolutely begging. So Bruno tweeted, I think 3 weeks ago, that he was going to repay the FPL managers. And I am still waiting to get repaid, basically. But yeah, take care. Good